You ever heard the story of Oedipus? Greek mythology, real tragic stuff. Oedipus, a king, unknowingly kills his father and marries his mother. This story fascinated Sigmund Freud, a famous psychologist. He even named a psychological theory after it, the Oedipus complex. For Freud, this myth held deeper truths about our minds. Imagine you're Freud, searching for clues about how our personalities develop. You stumble upon this ancient story, and it sparks an idea. Could this myth reflect something universal about childhood? Freud saw in Oedipus a reflection of unconscious desires and conflicts that he believed all children experience. This is the heart of the Oedipus complex, a complex relationship between a child and their parents, a dance of love, rivalry, and resolution. Stay tuned, because we're about to unravel this complex layer by layer. Okay, let's break down this Oedipus complex and see what Freud was really getting at. Picture this. You're a little kid, somewhere between 3 and 6 years old, just starting to make sense of the world around you. Life is simple. Your parents are your whole world. They're your source of comfort, safety, and love. But according to Freud, there's a lot more going on beneath the surface, deep in the unconscious mind, than most people realize. Freud believed that during this early stage of development, children develop strong, unconscious desires for their opposite-sex parent, meaning boys for their mothers and girls for their fathers. Now, before you get all creeped out, remember that Freud's definition of sexual was much broader than how we typically understand it today. He wasn't talking about adult sexuality or anything inappropriate. He meant a child's desire for love, attention, and closeness with their parent. So, little boys unconsciously develop these powerful feelings for their mothers, wanting to be the center of her world. They want their mother's attention and love all to themselves, almost as if they're competing for her affection. It's like a possessive crush, but it's all happening unconsciously, without the child even realizing it. They're not literally thinking, "I want to marry mommy." Instead, it's more about craving that special, exclusive bond with her. But here's where things get complicated. Dad's in the picture too. The boy starts to see his father as a rival for his mother's love, which can create feelings of jealousy, competition, and even hostility toward Dad. Think of it like a love triangle, but one that exists entirely in a child's mind, shaped by their emotions and imagination. Freud believed this was a completely normal and universal stage of development, something that most children go through as they try to figure out family dynamics, their own identity, and how they fit into the world. It's all part of growing up and learning about relationships, even if it sounds a little strange at first. Now, you might be wondering, what about girls? Do they go through this Oedipus complex too? Freud believed girls experience a similar yet different complex called the Electra complex. Just like boys, girls develop an unconscious attraction to their opposite-sex parent, in this case, their father. They crave his attention and affection. Freud argued that girls also experience something called penis envy during this stage. This, according to Freud, leads to feelings of inadequacy and a desire to have what boys have. Because of this, girls may feel resentment towards their mothers and compete for their father's attention. So, both boys and girls experience this complex, but with some key differences. The core idea, an unconscious attraction to the opposite-sex parent, and rivalry with the same-sex parent, shaping psychological development. Now let's dive into two of the most debated and controversial parts of Freud's theory: castration anxiety and penis envy. These ideas have sparked intense discussion and disagreement among psychologists, scholars, and the general public for decades. These concepts are not only complex, but they also make a lot of people uncomfortable even today. They challenge our assumptions about childhood, gender, and the unconscious mind. To really understand Freud's thinking, we need to take a closer look at what he meant and why these ideas were so groundbreaking and so controversial when he first introduced them. Freud believed that during early childhood, boys experience a deep rivalry with their fathers, which leads to what he called castration anxiety. This is an unconscious fear that the father will punish the boy, especially for his feelings toward his mother, by taking away what Freud saw as the source of his masculinity. The boy isn't literally afraid of his dad hurting him, but instead feels a powerful, hidden fear that shapes his sense of self and his relationship with authority. On the flip side, Freud introduced the idea of penis envy in girls. According to him, girls notice anatomical differences, and develop feelings of loss or inadequacy. Freud believed this realization led to feelings of envy and inferiority, shaping a girl's development and her sense of identity as a woman. This concept has been heavily criticized for reinforcing outdated gender stereotypes and for reducing a woman's worth to her anatomy rather than her abilities or personality. Many modern psychologists argue that what girls might actually envy is the social power, freedom, and opportunities that boys have, rather than any physical difference. These controversial concepts reflect the social norms, cultural attitudes, and biases of Freud's time, which were very different from our own. Today, we understand gender and sexuality in far more nuanced and complex ways, recognizing that identity is shaped by a wide range of factors, not just biology or early childhood experiences. So, we've got these kids grappling with unconscious desires and rivalry. What happens next? How do they move past this Oedipus complex? Freud believed resolving the Oedipus complex is a critical turning point in a child's development. The child needs to figure out how to resolve these conflicting feelings. They love and need both parents, but these unconscious rivalries create tension. The solution, according to Freud, lies in identification. The child starts to identify with the same-sex parent. Boys start to see their fathers not just as rivals, but as role models. Girls begin to identify more closely with their mothers. This identification allows the child to resolve rivalry and anxiety. Instead of competing, they start to emulate the same-sex parent, incorporating their values and behaviors. This process helps the child develop their own sense of gender identity and place within the family. It's a crucial step towards becoming a well-adjusted adult. Resolving the Oedipus complex isn't just about family dynamics. Freud believed it plays a vital role in developing our conscience. Through identification with the same-sex parent, the child internalizes their parents' moral values and standards. The child, wanting to please their parents and avoid punishment, adopts their parents' values as their own. This forms the basis of the superego, our moral compass. According to Freud, that inner voice telling you right from wrong stems from this process. It shows how deeply our psychological and emotional development are connected. We've talked about the ideal scenario, where a child successfully navigates the Oedipus complex, emerging with a strong sense of self, healthy relationships, and a well-developed moral compass. In this best-case outcome, the child learns to balance their desires, respect boundaries, and form meaningful connections with others as they grow. But what happens when things don't go so smoothly? Freud believed that if the Oedipus complex isn't resolved, it can lead to psychological hang-ups later in life. These unresolved feelings and conflicts don't just disappear. They can linger beneath the surface, quietly shaping our thoughts, behaviors, and emotional responses. Unresolved childhood conflicts could manifest as neuroses in adulthood, such as anxiety, depression, or persistent feelings of guilt and shame. People might find themselves struggling with self-doubt or feeling stuck in repetitive patterns they can't quite explain. For example, someone who never resolves rivalry with their same-sex parent might struggle with authority figures, have difficulty forming trusting relationships, or experience ongoing tension with their own parents even as adults. Or, if the identification process is disrupted, they might have trouble distinguishing right from wrong, act impulsively, or find it challenging to develop a stable sense of identity and personal values. Freud saw the unresolved Oedipus complex as a root cause of many psychological issues, believing that these early conflicts could echo throughout a person's life, influencing their mental health and relationships in subtle but powerful ways. He believed psychoanalysis could help uncover and address these unconscious conflicts, allowing people to gain insight into their behaviors and begin the process of healing and personal growth. Of course, not everyone agrees with this view. Many critics argue that Freud placed too much emphasis on the Oedipus complex, and that human development is far more complex and influenced by a wider range of factors. Still, the idea that unresolved childhood issues can impact us later in life is widely accepted in psychology. Whether or not we agree with Freud's specifics, it's clear that our early experiences can leave lasting marks, shaping who we become as adults. Freud's Oedipus complex is one of the most famous and controversial theories in psychology. While it has its supporters, it's faced significant criticism. One major criticism: The Oedipus complex is based on a heteronormative view of sexuality and family structures. It assumes all children are raised by a mother and a father, which doesn't reflect many families today. Critics also argue Freud over-sexualized children, and their behaviors can be explained by a desire for attention or security. Castration anxiety and penis envy have been criticized as sexist and lacking empirical support. Some accuse Freud of using the Oedipus complex to explain away child abuse, blaming the victim. Despite these criticisms, the Oedipus complex remains a significant part of Freud's legacy. It continues to be debated and discussed in psychology today. So, after all the criticisms, why is the Oedipus complex still relevant? Despite its flaws, it touched on universal truths about human development. It highlighted the importance of early childhood experiences, family dynamics, and the unconscious mind. Even if we don't fully subscribe to Freud's ideas, we can appreciate the message. Our early relationships shape our sense of self and our relationships with others. The Oedipus complex sparked a broader conversation about the unconscious in our lives. It remains an important part of psychology's history, reminding us of the enduring power of early childhood experiences.